Welcome back to TenTenths Podcast. I'm your host, Robert Griel, sitting in the King Motorsports studio, and I have Adam on Zoom. And if you can read the description of the show, you realize that we have Johnny Cichowski. Did I say that right? No. Dang it. I knew I'd get that wrong. So
we totally forgot to ask that.
It's
Johnny C.
It's Johnny C.
So everyone calls me. It's pronounced Cichowski, but nobody cares.
Johnny Cichowski. Well, at least we're keeping the theme going from the beginning that we can't get a name right.
That's fair.
So I got that
batting
going.
1,000.
Yep, consistent. So Johnny C. And if you run around in the circles that we run in, you're aware of who he is from his company 9 Lives Racing. But he also has a bunch of experience in like other forms of like safety and brakes, and we're going to try to dive into that today, and also kind of figure out more about who Johnny C. is beyond just 9 Lives Racing. So welcome to the show, Johnny.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Let's see, where should we start? Let's just start with a quick rundown. Like,
hit me hard. Whatever you got.
Yeah. Well, first off, who are you? And tell us about 9 Lives Racing first.
Oh, so 9 Lives Racing is an aerodynamics company. Our claim to fame, of course, is the aluminum extrusion wings. We've sold well over 2,500 at this point. We focus specifically at club racers and helping club racing and the everyday driver go faster is our end goal. And we do that while using, let's say, proven airfoil shapes, proven airfoil techniques, but then we kind of go out on the ledge and we find very obscure manufacturing tactics to try to keep the cost down.
Yeah, that was one thing because I have a 9 Lives on my 240SX, and that was one thing I noticed right off the bat was like performance per dollar. It's not even close. So
I mean, when we were looking over the kind of like when we first started the company, we didn't think it would do anything. Nobody was selling aluminum wings at the time. And when they started selling, I was like, oh man, the performance that we're offering for the amount of money it is insane. And so I'm like, all right, well, how else can we do this? How can we keep replicating that pattern and seeing how we can make people faster while allowing them to afford a set of Hoosiers as well.
So how did you get, like, were you always into aero, or was this kind of something that you fell into and then learned as it went?
No, I knew nothing about it. I wasn't even remotely, I'll say I was interested, probably like a 5 out of 10. You're just your average guy. And when the company started going, I mean, we teamed up with Elan Motorsports. They're the ones that developed the airfoil shape. The same guys that did the Delta Wing and the Pan, and ran Panos. They won Indy 500. They're the ones that developed it. And my first day, I'm like, I need the biggest crash course in aero I can possibly get. So I teamed up with Moreland Engineering, who have always been our aero go-tos, and basically just said, whatever you got, lay it on me. I need the 40-hour class in 20 minutes, and just don't, if I pass out, keep going. And just nonstop learning ever since then. And we're still, I'm still learning. I think aero is the hardest thing I've ever done. There's never been a time where I'm like, oh, that'll definitely work. And it just doesn't, or vice versa. So it's definitely
aero's such a witchcraft.
It's such a pain in the ass.
Aero's such a witchcraft. It's like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. What one person did on their car doesn't mean it's going to work on somebody else's. No. And it's so crazy to me. I like aero's one of the things that I love to learn about. And so I'm always reading articles and watching YouTube videos, and it's wild to me how many different approaches there are, and all of them are probably right and wrong in their own special ways.
Right. So. Yeah, I had one gentleman say, well, there's only one way to make a wagon wheel. And I was like, yeah, that's why all the Formula One teams have the exact same car. Like, no, there isn't. Like, there's so many ways to approach it. There's so many different, it's such a nightmare. trying to get it all like put together and trying to make a package work. It's a lot of effort.
So when you started Nine Lives Racing, were you looking at wings and saying, these designs are too expensive, or I guess how did that ball even get started rolling?
So I've always been what you'd call a dumpster diver racer.
Hey, me too.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Stuff that people have thrown away that that maybe is not good enough for their setup, but will be way better than what you have, is a thing. And it came down. I was working with Alon at the time, and they came up to me and they're like, "Hey, we got this wing profile for the NPO1 project. You should put it on your Miata." And I'm like, "Nah." And they chased me for a year. Like really? You should put one of these on the car. You should put one of these on the car. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna. Like, that's silly. No one does aluminum wings. And you should do it. You should do it. I'm like, and eventually it came on that Trackable Miatas group that we have. One of the guys was asking about one of these Chinese, carbon wings, and I was like, I could get this Elan wing for a few $100. Would you guys want that? And my inbox filled up. And I'm like, wow, people want it. Like, okay. And so I talked to Alon. I'm like, hey, I'm going to need one of those. And so they gave me one to try it out, put it on the car. And I was like, I'm not going to take a single order unless this is faster than what I got. And I had pretty much the industry standard on the car at the time, and put the wing on the car. We ran 5 miles an hour or 7 miles an hour on the back straight and 7 miles an hour through the corners, at Road Atlanta. And I was like, I was blown away. I'm like, this thing is real.
Yeah, that's not an insignificant mile per hour difference. That's dramatic.
It's enormous. And so I was like, wow, like, yeah, let's go. Let's start it. So I started a website so that way I could keep track of who ordered stuff and who didn't. And the rest is really history, I'll tell you that.
So you guys started with Miatas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so do you know how many platforms you actually specifically support now? Like make specific packages for?
Oh, we have well over.
Is that even a number you can?
Oh man, well it's funny because it's like people call us up and they're like, "Hey, build me a wing kit," and we're like, "All right, mail us a trunk." And so they go in a junkyard and have a carrier, a junkyard near the shop. You have a carrier bring a trunk over. We scan it, build a kit for it, and then build the. And so my parts list, the amount of kits we have is, I'd be really shocked if it was less than 120 kits.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
because Robbie, yours was built on a builder wing, right?
Yeah, I did a builder wing, so which I really like that you have that as an option because I like to do things all myself and make it way more difficult than I need to. So I could just go on your website and get the specs on what I need, and then just order the wing to the right dimension, the end plates I want, and then the uprights, and then I can just cut them to whatever I want them to be. And it was so, I guess I won't say easy because I made it way harder, but it was as easy as it could be, and it worked, and it was great.
Yeah. I started off as a DIY guy. I'm still a DIY guy, and I'm like, and there was a lot of people who were telling me not to do that. They were like, no, you got to build kits, and you have to, this is your program. And I'm like, no, I have to support the DIY guy. That's who I am. That's who we care about. So we're going to have this. And so we put that on the website.
Well, I really appreciate it. And I'm sure that a lot of people are doing the same thing, but it's also nice that you have the full spectrum of kits as well that are, specific. Cause I got a 350Z as well. And the only reason I don't have a 9 Lives on it is because I got a dumpster diving bargain basement price on a wing, and I'm running that now currently. But the plan would be in the future to get a 9 Lives as well. But yeah, you have a kit, or if I wanted to do something different, I could use the mounts I already have and then do a builder kit. Yeah,
hold off on that one until we get our splitter kit too, because we got Tom over.
I was going to ask about this.
I was too,
dude.
Actually.
Tom over at Grassroots talked Robin to building him an aero kit for his 350Z, and I was like, for a story. And me and Tom are really good friends, and I was like, Tom, what are you doing? Like, we have all these aero kits. We have them for, NA Miatas, NCs, Corvettes, you name it. We have these like perfectly balanced kits. Why don't you just do a story on one we already make? And he goes, yeah, I know. And just continue on like, fine, we'll make one for the 350Z too, like we'll throw
they seem to be like really becoming a hot chassis these days.
I don't know why they've been overlooked for so long. I've always been a Z guy. And so I'm like, if you look at like a Z versus an S2000, it's a little heavier. It's got way more torque. It's a lot wider.
Mm-hmm.
It's got
way cheaper.
Way cheaper. Yeah, you can fit a lot bigger tire on it. You don't have to buy a hardtop.
Yeah.
Nope.
Like it's a really good stuff, and most kids will get rid of them for like $5,000.
Yep. No,
perfect little platform.
I got my shelf with half a cage in it for $2,500.
Yeah,
so,
right.
I mean,
and that was still probably a little high.
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. I actually last year I took it out and liked it better than my LS Swap 240. Like just the way it drove, it just felt better on track. So
yeah, they're really taut. I've had probably three of those Z33 platforms personally. So yeah, they're good cars. I like them a lot.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to keep an eye on that. Because
slightly off topic, but I want to ask because I apparently have some Z experts.
Oh.
Why does nobody care about the G35?
Because it's just like the 350, but heavier.
Is it just that it's heavy? Because I think it looks better. I'm probably
the only one,
like I am with everything else, but I think it looks better.
You're wrong. You and Kevin Parlett.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But he's like the only one I ever see. And then like you'll see some like drift ones. Usually those are sedans because that's a thing in drifting right now.
They want the wheelbase.
Well, I just think that they think it's like it's style points. Everything, in the drift community is about being able to, and it's fine. But just you never see people build G35s, and I was always like, man, I like those. But I suppose they're heavier, aren't they?
I mean, if you need a back seat, it's not a bad car either.
That's true. It does have I mean, it's got a back shelf.
Takes an LS swap well.
I don't know that I would call it a seat necessarily.
It's there for insurance purposes.
Yeah. It's similar to my Audi TT in that respect. So, should we talk about pre-9 lives, Johnny, a little bit?
Sure. How far back you want to go?
Well, so I always love hearing people's like car origin stories. What got you into cars? Is this something that's been something you've done your whole life? Were you born into it like me? Did you kind of find it later on like Robbie? That's always stuff that's.
Were you influenced by a movie or television show like myself?
Fast and Furious. I think that was my generation. The first car memory I got was my dad. So my mom, when my mom and my dad, she had a Fox body with a 5.0, and it was the last year of the Cobra, if I remember correctly. And he would take it apart, put it back together, and all this stuff. I can hear my cat.
Mine's been bellowing in the background too, so don't feel bad.
All right, cool. I won't. And so, I just remember him taking it apart, put it back together, and he had a trophy in the garage. And I just vividly remember that trophy, like sitting there, and all I wanted was to get my own, my own trophy. And and time went on, and I kind of lost. He didn't race or anything like that. I think he did a little drag racing. That's how I got the trophy. I never really asked, but time went on, and I got a dirt bike. And when I was a kid, I grew up on a farm, and so I was like, all right, and I just started racing dirt bikes, and I think the old saying, with age get a cage, and I stopped bouncing so well. And I was like, all right, let's try this 4-wheel thing out. And then just kept going from there pretty much.
So was it Miatas first?
No, it was the first thing for speed was CBR 954RR. And I was getting everything ready to do a track day with it. I got the leather pants and the knee sliders and all that stuff. And it was like 2 days after that came in, I crashed it on the street with a buddy doing a wheelie competition. And I had bought a 350Z too at the time. And I was like, all right, I need to lay off of the two-wheel stuff and get into the 350Z. And I did an autocross. And after that, it was all downhill.
So was the Z newer at the time? Is that how long ago was this? Are we talking?
Yeah, that was 2006. I bought it 2 years old. I was fresh out of the Army with the GI Bill.
Yep.
And yeah, so the GI Bill was paying me. I was living with my parents. The Illinois VA grant for school was paying for my tuition. So I just had cash. I'm like, what do I do? I'm like, I want to go get a sports car. And so I went and bought 350Z that was fairly new. And I started autocrossing it. And that was it opened a whole world. Once you started looking and you realize how deep that rabbit hole gets, I'm still finding out how deep it is. And that was 2006 timeframe.
So then what got you the transition into like working in motorsports? Because I know you've been doing that for a long time too.
Yeah. So, well, I'd always pushed to make it a living. Back in 2007, I didn't have a job for like 2 years. I didn't have I couldn't find work. The economy was trashed and I was just applying everywhere, and I was trying to apply for all these really lame jobs, like building houses and stuff like that, like stuff I knew I hated. And an opportunity at PFC popped up, PFC Brakes, and I applied. Surprised the hell out of me when they called me. And they're like, "Do you want to move to Charlotte?" I was living in Chicago at the time, and I was like, "Yeah, I need work." And so I went down to Charlotte, and first day in that place was a trip, man. Because I went from working, I was helping a buddy he runs a little Z shop. We're putting turbo kits and stuff in the cars. So I was doing that for side cash, and I went from doing little turbo kits to being, a sneeze away from NASCAR and working in Grand Am. And I was like, holy cow, like you got to sink or swim right here. It's one of those things, like if you didn't do well, you're out on your ass in a heartbeat. And if you did well, you keep your job. So we just pushed and yeah, it was a riot. I wouldn't trade that experience for the world.
Yeah. That sounds like it'd be crazy. Being able to work on pro cars and stuff like that has got to be just like such a trip.
Oh yeah. It's, the first, the whole time I was unemployed, I was just watching racing on TV. And then the next thing you know, I'm in it. And, Scott Pruitt's right here, after I was just watching him on TV for the last 4 years. So it was this moment. I'm like, okay, I have to remain incredibly professional right now, but I am so starstruck. I'm like inside, you're just like, like a little kid. And it was fun.
Yeah, I know exactly how that feels. Robbie and I have had that moment. Robbie and I have known each other for like 15 years or something like that. And we originally were friends skating. And we used to go to these big, huge competitions and like you'd be rubbing shoulders with like the biggest pros in the world. And like, this is so crazy. You realize they're just like normal people, just like the rest of us, And now we're into this racing thing and we're meeting people that are like, just, we never thought this would be a thing, but here we are.
Oh yeah. And when you get to know them a lot of times, it's like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, Ben Keating has my number and he texts me, I'm like,
jeez.
Like, this is so cool,
Yeah, that would be crazy.
You're like, this is so cool. It's where I want to be, and I was sitting down with Rob, Lindsay at Moreland. He's like, we should come up with a plan. And I go, okay, we need to win Le Mans.
That's a good plan.
And he was like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't care. What we got to do, we need to win Le Mans. Like, we've done everything else. Like, we've sat here and we've pushed so hard. We won Daytona. Like, we need to win Le Mans. We need to get hooked up in a program where we do the consulting on it. And we need to set it up, and then we need to win it. Like, that's the goal for the company. And he was like, okay.
So you still do some of the like pro racing consulting and stuff like that, even with the.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I try to be something for everybody. So if you call in and you talk to me about your Civic, I try to help you out the best I can. If you call in and talk to me about your, we were just working with Kelly Moss at, with the new 992 Porsche Cup cars, I'm going to help you with that. It doesn't matter. I don't care what level you're on, kind of a thing. There's a lot of people out there that really turn up their nose at club racers, in pro racing. And I'm just like, you guys are stupid. Like, why would you do that? Like, these guys are just as passionate, they might not have the budget, but they're still here doing it.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about racers turning their nose up at other groups right now. You get Robbie really fired up.
You get all pissed. Does he race lemons?
No, I don't. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not yet.
No, we had a local club racing group kick our time trials group out of their little group. So now we got to find new events to go to. So
they don't seem to understand that time trials feeds. Is a great way to feed into club sport or into club racing. That doesn't seem to track with them, which is very strange to me.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, just look at GLTC. Like,
yes,
it's got 90% of the TT guys in it now.
That's Robbie's a prime example of that. He started doing a few HPDs, moved to our local time trial program. Now he's on the board or some weird thing with it, but he's kind of looking to move towards club racing, and then these guys make that move. Well, where Robbie's not going to go club racing at now.
Yeah, it's so it always cracks me up. So what I bring to Nine Lives is, of course, the marketing side. I know how to effectively talk with customers. I basically take I call it the quacking noise the engineers make, and I convert it into, substance that normal humans can understand.
You have people skills that the engineers don't have.
Yeah, it's an entire career path filled by lots of people. Like, it's a thing. But I always find it funny when I sit back and I watch race organizers work, and I'm like, this dude just paid you $500 to come run your event. And you're yelling at him. Like, are you out of your mind? Like, these are your people. These are how you pay your mortgage. Yep. Like, how can you be a complete ass to them? And the first person first organization I've ever seen that actually took you as a customer's feelings into consideration is Grid Life. And I was like, I'm on board. Like, I'm on board in this. This is like, Adam kills it every single time. I don't care what it is. I'm on board with this.
Yeah. Now, we've been friends with Adam for years, and just, I know he talks about being so stressed and how hard it is, but like, Grid Life's doing so good because of the way they approach it and the direction they take it. So yeah, it's no surprise that it's as successful as it is and popular as it is, just by the way they run their events.
Oh yeah, that was like my big shocker when I got into NASCAR. I'm like, you guys hate your fans. I've never seen, like, if there is a way for NASCAR to kick fans a little harder, they'll do it. And I'm like, what is wrong with you people? They have these little areas where, like, that's where the fans go. Like this little, like, they bother them or something. Like golly, like. Oh, it drives me nuts just watching it.
That's something that drag racing gets right.
Yeah. I haven't been to an NHR race, mostly because they don't do brakes or aero. But
I mean, they gotta slow those cars down.
Well, I guess they slow down with more aero than anything. I guess we should make parachutes.
There you
go. But yeah, from what I've seen, like that, you get right up there, you see the people. They kind of look at the teams and are like, deal with it. Like, these are, if they're not here, you're not here, kind of a thing.
Yeah, you can be 10 foot away from them while they're rebuilding that, 10,000 horsepower motor or whatever it is, and the driver will be standing there talking to people and signing autographs and
perfect,
kissing hands and shaking babies the way it should be. So that's always one thing that's really been impressive to me with drag racing.
Oh yeah, It's always, whenever someone comes up like, "Oh, I have your wing," I'm like, Like that generally makes me feel like that gives me a warm feeling inside. You know, like when Robert said, "Oh yeah, we got your wing," I'm like, "Oh, thank you, thank you so much." You know, it's like that's what we do. We push for you guys every day, and it feels good to know that message is getting through. And you know, I don't know. It makes my day. It makes me happy. I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. And it should though. I mean, it shows the passion, and it also, I mean, it was just funny. Like a few years ago, you're like you'd see the Nine Lives stuff come out, and like some people would have it, and then now it's just like if you want to be serious in time attack, everyone's got them. Like it's or not just time attack, like club racing too. I mean, it's just they're everywhere, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's you know, we just try to help everybody as much as we can, and you know, and try to make a community out of it, because Aero is such a pain in the ass to work with that, you know, when you get one chassis, you can really dive into that chassis and really develop something for it, and then when you get to the next chassis, none of that stuff works anymore.
Right.
You know, I'll give you an example of Fender Vents. Like we tested the Fender Vents on my car on on a Miata, and on like every prototype, every other car out there, they make drag. You know, they help cooling, they help a little bit of downforce, but they make a ton of drag. But when we tried it on our car, it reduced drag, and it added a little bit of downforce. So it's like, all right, great. You know, another thing to like, maybe this works. You know?
Huh? That's so strange.
It's got to be so frustrating from like a business point of view, because you can't just like print, you know, you can't just like print a product, just make 1 billion of them and sell them to everybody. And like, yep, it works. I swear it works. It'll be great. Like, that's not how that goes. That's got to be kind of frustrating almost.
It is. And, you know, anybody that talks, you know, with racers, you know, from our organization, I'm like, no matter what you do, never say definite and yes. It's always maybe and should, you know, because unless we've tested it, we can't say that. You know, like on the Corvettes now, on a Corvette kit, we've got a lot of development in the Corvette kit. That's when we're like, okay, we're absolutely sure on this. But yeah, you're right. We can't just make 1,000 widgets, you know, like we can't have 4 part numbers, you know, like Apple would, and sell it to everybody. We just can't do it that way. It's a lot of time and effort developed into each one to make it right for your kit, for your car, and what you're trying to do with it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
No,
you're good.
Maybe we're getting a little boring. Maybe I'm diving a little.
No,
not at all. You're talking to the two people that won't get bored with any of this.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it a little.
No, I'll start asking you real specific CFD engineering type stuff here real soon.
All right, well, let's save that.
Robbie's the engineer guy. Like that's what he does for a living, you know, and so he'll love that stuff. I probably won't understand most of it, but I'll act interested at least.
Let's save that for the end, for the real hardcore guys to really hang on to it.
Works for me.
So before we started there and then we left it. Let's go back to it because I want to talk about it. Brakes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about brakes, because I think that there's a lot of that stuff that people don't understand that you have a grasp on from your past. And I kind of mentioned it to you before we started the show, but everybody loves their glowing rotor pictures. That's, you know, it's like the thing that everyone asks for on Track Midwest after we have a night race or whatever at every event.
1,000 degrees.
Yeah. But apparently that's not necessarily, I mean, it's going to happen either way, I'm sure. But so brake balance and stuff like that is what I'd seen you talk about in the past. How do you figure that stuff out? Where do you even start with that?
So it's a lot of, on those, we had lots of spreadsheets and calculators. And it's funny when I'd bring my pro racing calculators when I was working at OG or PFC, when I'd bring my pro level calculators out, and I'd be like telling people, I'm like, okay, well, what's your cross weight and balance? Like, okay. What's your center of gravity? And they go, oh, I don't know. Like, oh, okay.
I don't know how to even get there.
I guess we could guess at that number. I'm like, what's your piston size? Well, I don't know. You know, so it's one of these like, all right, I need to start working and understanding the the balance better so we can work out the calculators. But other than that, you can tune it mostly by driver feel. If you're locking a tire, if you're going to a braking zone and you lock a tire, that's the wrong answer. You got an imbalance in the car. And one thing I've pushed my entire career is balance. We push it at 9 Lives, we push it at PFC, push it at OG. Just you got to get that balance right, because you got to get all 4 tires working right at the same rate. You'll never get 110%. You'll never get 101% traction out of a tire, but you can get 100% traction out of 2 tires. Now you got what would normally be 200% on one. So it's, you got to get that balance right if you want to build a fast race car. And, generally for a driver sitting in the car, how they would tune it is if you go into a braking zone and you're not in a weird transition, transitions will throw you off every time, like Road Atlanta going to 10A, it's all downhill. So you're going to be really light in the rear anyway. So, don't set your balance based on that. You got to think more of a flat, balanced forward braking moment. Then you got to start seeing like, okay, am I locking a tire? If I am, where is it at? If it's locking in the front, you need to send some balance to the rear. If you're locking in the rear, you need to send balance to the front. And it's basically, this is kind of balancing game using piston sizes, line pressure, pad compound, rotor sizes, piston size, just trying to get it to come out right. Come on, even.
That was going to be my next question is what, so I've seen lots of people, like I know in even Miatas, a lot of people will put a more aggressive pad in the front, a less aggressive pad in the back. I also have seen lots of different ways to do brake bias and stuff like that. How do you even go about figuring, like, so you're saying piston size?
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of hard to change.
Yeah.
That's fairly set.
Unless you change calipers.
Right. Do you find that, like, with most big brake kits and stuff like that come with, or that are built specifically for cars, or is that usually taken into effect, or is that something you find like people are just throwing the biggest brakes they can on it and not thinking about it?
So when it comes to brake and brake kits, I've only known 4 people in my entire career that can build a good brake kit.
Can we list them? Are we allowed to know? Is that things you can divulge?
Yeah, Derek Dong, Justin Cockrum, the Jeff Ritter, and John. I forget John's last name at Pro Systems. Those are the only ones I've ever seen build a decent kit. Everyone else is just guessing.
Okay.
So it's not horsepower, right? If it was horsepower, everybody'd know what degree of lift your camshaft has, right? Because it's not this sexy thing, it's actually the exact opposite of that. Nobody really pays much attention to it. And so when it comes down to actually building something good, it's very few people that have invested the time to learn how to do it right. But yeah, so those big brake kits, are they good? Depends on what car you got. If you got a Honda, something that's front engine, front wheel drive, it's all the bias is going on the front anyway, then yeah, you need it. If you got a Corvette and the brake system on it is trash from the factory, yeah, you need it. Other than that, it's pretty open if you need it or not.
Corvettes are interesting to me because not only do their brakes seem to be real trash from the get-go, but also they're way more expensive than it is to just like replace or put a different kit on the front, and then the pads are cheaper. It doesn't take long to save money by upgrading. Yeah,
Corvettes are a pain in the ass. It's like GM went into Pratt & Miller. They said, how do we build the C5? Pratt & Miller told them. They took all the high points out of it and then just let the bean counters ruin the rest of it. So they got the real nice V8 with all the torque. They got the transaxle where it's in the back. You got the weight distribution's perfect. It's wide as a freight train. He's got the offset in the hubs is perfect. The tires are huge. And then they let some dude, like in their first year of accounting, build the braking system on it and the cooling systems, and so it's just like, as soon as you get the car, you got to throw most of it away, but at least you don't have to fabricate anything, kind of a thing.
it seems like vets have really come into popularity, at least in our little circle of racing here, kind of like the Z's. They've seemed to have really, I think especially the C5s have kind of dipped down into an area where people will consider turning them into race cars more often.
Oh yeah,
they're really becoming a popular platform.
Yeah, I traded a stock car for one.
Yeah, you've got a C5, don't you?
Yeah, I had a stock car that was just a shell of a stock car. No, like a rear axle, no drivetrain, and a guy traded a running driving C5 for it. And I'm like, yeah, every day of the week I'll take that trade. That's awesome.
Are stock cars as good of an idea as I think they are?
No.
No?
No.
Is that a trap?
It is. It's a trap, and for the only reason being that every race organization will hate you.
Yeah.
Right. So
and
it's something about the tube jet. Yeah, like they don't want them. I'm sure like Lemons is like, no, Champ Cars will just penalize you to the death. I mean, they're relatively quick. They're cheap to keep going. Tires are like, you can find them laying on a street corner in Charlotte. It's like they're if you want to just do a track day on it, there's nothing wrong with it. But if you want to go racing with it, it is a nightmare trying to get an organizer to let you run it.
Are they cheap on consumables?
I say they're as cheap as you want to make it.
Okay.
Right. So if you want to put a $2,000 Chevy small block in it, with a cheap Jericho and run it on metric calipers, then yeah, you can run them really stupid cheap. But chances are you're probably going to do that one day, and then you're going to stumble upon an LS3, and then with 700 horsepower, and then you're going to stick that in there, and then you got to upgrade everything. Now you're getting into some real money trying to keep it alive. And so it's kind of, it's a blank canvas that you can usually dig yourself a big hole.
I just see them so cheap, and I think, man, that would be so nice. I could do whatever I want. If I don't like something, you just cut it off and weld it back on in a different place or whatever. Yeah. And I don't know, it just seems like such a good idea, but I'm sure it's not.
Yeah, it's just, if you want to, like I said, if you want to do a track day, it's perfect. It's great car for it, but if you want to go racing with it, every organization out there is going to smack you with so many rules that it'd be impossible to be competitive with it.
Yeah, that's probably unfortunately true.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there hasn't been one in GLTC yet.
Hate to burst your bubble. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wait, would a tube frame car be illegal in GLTC?
No, there's rules written specifically for it.
Really?
Yeah, because like Ryan Christoph and that crazy little CRX that he's got is basically a tube frame car. And so I think it's just a weight modifier, just like everything else.
Oh, huh. Maybe I should throw an air restrictor on my V8 Miata.
There you go.
Bring it out. I think that'd be
awesome.
Is that basically a tube frame car at this point too?
I call it 1/3 or 2/3 tube frame. So like the floor, the front end is all tube, but I still have the rear. The rear of the car is all OEM. I still have the A-pillars, and the rockers are still stock. But everything else has been cut out and made in the tube.
So is that like...
How heavy is that car then?
2,200 pounds.
Oh, so it's still up in there.
It's decent, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff crammed in that little car.
That's fair. I mean, it is a V8 car. It's not, but and yeah, it's got quite a cage in it too, I think. So
yeah. I mean, we hit 165 at Road Atlanta or at Daytona. And I'm like, this is really fast in this tiny car.
That is moving.
Yeah. I saw that video where you lost a tire, and first of all, well done on not crashing.
Yeah,
because man, that kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah. I was reaching down to put in the sixth, and just bang. And I think it was a lot to do with the diffuser, because as soon as it popped, the diffuser started dragging on the ground, and I think that kept me straight more than anything. So
okay.
I think that saved me. Or
see, aero is safety.
It is safety.
It's safety, and that's always good.
Everyone has to have a 9 Lives Racing diffuser on their car, like because of the children.
Take note, Miata guys.
Right.
So is that your Miata, your LS Swap Miata, is that like a test bed that you guys use, or is this like strictly your personal race toy?
So that car has been with me since the very beginning. I did the V8 swap in Chicago when I was unemployed and I had a whole bunch of time on my hands. And it was like ever since day one, I was like, I'm going to use this to learn. Like when I got to PFC, I was trying every brake pad combination in the world under it. So that way, when I actually got into the pits, I could effectively communicate it with the drivers or communicate with the engineers. Because I don't know why this is the way it is, but I'm like constantly the only one that drives in pro level, consulting. Like everyone else is like, nobody else drives, no one else races except for like maybe one or two. And so I'm like, man, like this is a really good experience that I can use to effectively communicate with my customers and get stuff right. So any chance I got to try something on that car, we did it. And we just didn't care about the rules. We didn't care about anything. We just wanted to learn and grow. And, I spent too much time with a Trans Am team, and that's why it's tube frame. And, we spent too much time with PFC brakes, so it's got a Trans Am brake kit on it. And then we let Rob go nuts on the aero. And I always find I learn best and on stuff when I'm building it for my own car. I'm more actively engaged in it. So it's so that's the reason behind that car. So it's not out to win anything or do anything special, other than just to go as fast as we possibly can go.
Which you seem to do consistently well with.
At one track. I'm really slow to learn tracks. I'm not a pro driver at any means. I'm not, like watching Catil drive and just drive the wheels off the car at every track I'm just so jealous of that. I'm like, how do you guys do this?
So upsetting.
It is. I spend so much time at Road Atlanta because I live right next door to it, and I got probably a few hundred laps around it, and it's gotten me after about 5 years. I think I got the track almost figured out, and these guys can do it in an afternoon. So it's, I'm like, okay, well, like I'll try.
Yeah, no, that's a serious skill that not a lot of people have.
Yeah,
like watching Catil's progression in the last few years is just mind numbing. How much he has been able to do so quickly. And
yeah, it's just any of those guys. Catil, Luke McGrew came out of nowhere.
Oh yeah,
and he's killing it. So it's really impressive. I love watching these GLTC races. I mean, it's just so much talent involved. It's awesome to watch.
Couldn't agree more.
Mm-hmm. Right, so you're building the C5 for that, is that right?
The C5 is always up in the air. I think the build direction is gonna happen when I pull it into the garage. Because I'm constantly like, I want a street car. Oh no, I want a race car that has a cage or that can also do street. And then I bought a supercharger, and then so I'm like, well, we'll see. Like as soon as I pull it in the garage, I'll feel like whatever I want to do with it at that point, then that's what it'll be. And but I'm always tossing ideas out. I always change my mind.
Yeah, it's always so hard. There's so many good options,
Yeah. And I mean, I really always wanted a twin turbo Corvette. And
don't we all?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, right. And so I'm like, man, I got the fab equipment. I could bust out a set of headers real easy.
You've spent too much time watching in-car videos from Ferris, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I told Ferris as soon as he got done with his kit, I'm like, you're making me want to do bad things. Like that kid is so badass.
It's super cool.
Yeah.
It's so cocky, just hanging out there
for the whole
world to see. I love
just
it so much.
Oh, I know. When I saw that, I'm like, how can you just not put turbos there? anymore. Like after that, like how can you ignore that?
It makes me wonder from like an aero perspective if that's kind of a weird place for them. But I guess if you have enough horsepower, what's it matter, right?
No, drag always matters. I'll always say that.
That's fair.
But actually cutting those fenders off the way he did, it probably helps the splitter work a lot better. Or that big silly front wing that he's got now. Like I bet you having the fender area removed really helps that out. So he might have accidentally tried to add power and then accidentally made his aero better.
When I talked to him at Super Lab this year, after the first session he went out, he said they had that giant APR 1000 on the back of that thing at like full angle of attack, like as much as it could go, and the back end was all over the place because the front end of that car was just so stuck to the ground with that setup they have on there. So crazy.
When he got it mounted, that was the first thing I said. We're on a little GTA chat group. Right. And as soon as he got that mounted, I'm like, that rear wing is not going to be enough. Like, there is no way. You should have just had Cody build you two at the same time.
Yeah.
And to watch his in-car was wild too. Because it was like he would like slow down way, way down. The rear end would dance all the way around the corner. And then it was like watching, like Star Trek. With all the stars coming around the car, it would just blast off into space. Like I was physically laughing watching the in-car because the acceleration was so intense. I'm like, I couldn't even imagine driving that thing. That was such a rocket.
Yeah, it's a full-on drag car that turns corners. I mean,
right?
It's great.
Has he admitted what the horsepower is yet?
No, he's toying with me about it. He called me out on it, which I know he did. Hilarious.
I know he did.
I think it's hilarious, but he's still playing it close to his chest. So
really?
That's fine.
Yeah,
keep your secrets.
He was saying like 700 or something like that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I mean, I remember him saying that, like, which I don't think at the time at Super Lap, I don't think he ever ran it more than like the lower boost setting. But I think like at the full higher boost setting, he said it made 12 or 13, whatever the number was. I don't even remember. But I'm just like, does it though? And then, I remember Cole saying a similar number, and I'm like, man, it seems like your car spent a lot of time at a place that makes 3,000 horsepower GTRs to only make 1,200 horsepower. Like, I don't know, you keep your secrets. That's fine. I'm not, I love it as much as the next guy, but it just seems a little sus. That's
I want to see Cole's C5. I want to see that thing go.
Yeah. Word on the street was that car doesn't have the power to be that great yet.
Yeah, well, that's easy. I mean, it's not less water.
That's easily fixed.
Throw a couple turbos on it, done.
Yeah.
That's not even the hard part. Well, seeing Andrew's work on that thing is, I'm like, there's a lot to be learned off of that kit. Just sitting there, just walking around looking at it. It's like all right, I see a lot. There's a lot that I understand after seeing the C5 and in the CFD and in the tunnels. There's a lot that car makes sense, and I'm like, oh, that's how he got around these issues. That's how he did it. Like, all right, I get it. Kind of a thing. So it was pretty cool to. I'm like, I want to see that thing go. I want to see that thing with some power and like a real hot shoe driver, and I bet you that thing's gonna be a rocket.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, everything that comes out of that shop is impressive.
Oh yeah. I'd love to get one of those little Sierras.
2 years ago at Grid Life Alpine, at the one in Colorado, they were letting people drive those, and a friend of mine that was with me that year went and drove it, and I really, really wanted to, but I couldn't quite swing the money. I didn't want to, and I regret it every day. They look so much fun.
If it had the nose wing on it, that had our wing.
I think that was pre-wing.
Okay,
but maybe, I don't remember.
Cole, like as soon as we fired up, he gave me a shout. He was like, "Hey, we need some wings for these cars." I'm like, "Hell yeah!" And he shot me a picture of it running up Pikes Peak with the aluminum wing on the front. They had put a couple extra elements on it, but I was like, "That's so cool!" Like at the time, I was just working out of my garage, and I'm like, "We already got a wing that goes up Pikes Peak. That's so badass."
I mean, You got parts on the car. You should at least have the chance to drive it, right?
Yeah, right.
Come on,
Cole, if you're listening, next time you're on the East Coast, let me know. Hook a brother.
Yeah. Those are Hayabusa, right? Powered.
Yeah, some kind of super bike engine. I know they did their own diff on it and stuff like that. But yeah, so it'd be a little 4-cylinder screamer motor with a sequential in it. All good news.
I think they were having some tough times with the trans when they were at Grid Life with them. That was real early in the development of the car. Mm-hmm. So still super cool. Yeah.
Motorcycle engines don't like to go into cars. There's a lot of stuff you got to go around, but to work around and to make those work, just look at any Radical. There's always a ton of work trying to get those things to live in the back of them.
Yeah. Those are obnoxiously cheap on the used market.
Yeah, I know.
It kind of scares me. Like there's got to be a reason they're that cheap.
Right. Yeah, it's always like, well, I can tell you the reason, because you got to get the parts from England, and they know what they got, So
that's true.
It's like a welder that knows his worth is really annoying to deal with, and it's kind of like the same thing for those car manufacturers.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah. Apparently, somebody near us has an Ariel Atom, and he's going to bring it to an autocross.
Yeah.
And that's cool because I've never seen one of those before. Or no, I have seen one of those. I think I've seen one of those with one of your wings on it.
Yep. Yep.
But I've only seen it once though.
We got a few. Jeff's running around with a triple element on the front of his now. So
a triple element. Okay then.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had a triple element. Is that
we'll make anything. If you call us up and with a hope and a dream, you just let us know. We'll make it. We got single element triples, splitters. We're getting into carbon now. We're developing a new carbon division where we're going to be the trick is, all right, so on carbon wings, the big time suck and the big thing that takes all the money is labor and just building the thing. You got to cut them in half, you got to glue them together, you got to make sure all the jigs are right. That's a lot of work. So we're trying this new process where it removes 90% of the labor, and hopefully it'll reduce the cost of the carbon wing by a substantial margin.
That'd be awesome.
Robbie's listening.
I am.
Robbie loves carbon fiber.
Who doesn't?
It's pretty cool to watch it go. My background is a fabricator, as for metal and aluminum and especially. And so when I wander over to the composite shop and I see them doing infusion on, a splitter or something like that, it's pretty cool to watch. I'm sitting there like, man, this took me an hour on beating this out of aluminum.
Yeah, I got a couple of friends that have a fab shop in town, Factory Fabrication, and then their race team is also working with more getting into carbon. So it's I was over there helping them with some other stuff and just kind of watched them lay the carbon for their splitter and start just working through it. It's like, man, I could really get into this.
I'm watching. I'm like, this is a really slippery slope.
Oh yeah.
And then it's then you're like Cody, where you got an autoclave in your garage, kind of a thing.
Yep.
And you're like, oh no, where have I gone? And then all of a sudden you got a prototype.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's got.
I hate it when this happens.
What a wild, wild machine.
Yeah, exactly.
That he has built there.
Mm-hmm.
So, this kind of popped into my head. So the wing you make now, the aluminum wing, it's extruded. What exactly does that mean?
So it's a process where they take it's an extrusion like any other you would see, for your shower curtains or I see extrusions a lot in bathrooms, kind of a thing. And they take a big hunk of aluminum, they heat it to 900 degrees, they put it in the press, and then they squeeze it out like spaghetti or out of a meat press kind of a thing, and out comes your shape.
Okay.
Think that Play-Doh thing when you were a kid.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And they don't even get it that hot. It's only 900 degrees.
Yep.
So
my father-in-law works for Winnebago, the the camper manufacturer, and he works for, like, they have a whole division that does aluminum extrusion. Apparently they do it for a lot more than just themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like a shift lead or something. Like, he's kind of high up in there, you know, and I had no idea what it really meant.
Right.
But,
yeah. So it comes out this really long, that 2-dimensional shape that you give them. And then they build it to that spec. And what makes ours a little bit different than anybody else, and trust me, I've tried, is our wall thickness on our wing is way thinner than I can get it done anywhere else. Because when we were getting from Elan, I tried to go direct and try to get them myself, because Elan's was expensive. And I was like sending them all the drawings and, like, here, can you guys make this? And they're like, we can't get that wall thickness. Like, nobody could do it. I've probably called 100 extruders. No one even came close. And so I was like, all right, like, I guess I just got to keep doing it this way. I'm not going to build a heavier wing, like nothing like that. But yeah, so it's a weird process that these guys use that involve some kind of water cooling at the same time that they're pushing it through, kind of a thing.
Huh.
So did you ever talk to Winnebago? Just out of curiosity.
I didn't. Actually, I might have. Is their extrusion business called Winnebago? Because
I don't know if it's called Winnebago. It might be a different name. I have no idea, to be honest.
Yeah,
with you. I know it's all in like the same compound, but I don't know if it's a different name or whatever.
Yeah, they always have different names for the little divisions and stuff like that. You always find out later, because anybody that gets into that level of manufacturing, like, they are just so checked out of their lives. they're like, are you placing the order? No. All right, bye. And then they hang up on you. Kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It's not like motorsports. We're all like really excited and happy to be there, kind of a thing.
Yeah, he never wants to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a job. He's been there a long time, and it's just a job to him.
Yeah, exactly.
So I get that.
Right.
But I don't know. I think it'd be hard to go to work like that every day. Robbie's like, I go to work like that every day.
Every day.
Yeah. Well,
I don't care about fuel nozzles in airplanes, just so we're clear.
When I was in college, I was going for mechanical engineering.
Yeah.
And I took a job working for a pollution control company where I had lots of engineers. I was just assembling for them. And they were all miserable. Not a single one smiled. I was like, man, maybe
I'm at least I don't have that.
Maybe I need something a bit more flashbang, than that. Keep my attention.
Yep. No, I don't blame you at all.
I think for Robbie, like, you might not like the product, but the process is at least interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I've carved out a really nice niche at work where, like, I do 3D printing with metal, and I'm developing that technology, and then I also
that's cool.
Do like tool design and like manufacturing stuff. So I mean, my job itself is pretty cool. I'm not passionate about the product, fuel nozzles for airplanes, but I mean, I don't dislike my job either, though. Just so we're perfectly clear, but I do work for
For anybody who works with Robbie, he loves his job.
It's the best job ever.
The boss
all the people that
right
works with him. He loves his job. He loves everybody at work.
All my coworkers. Yeah, I have the best coworkers. Actually, my boss and I get along great. Like, we had a one-on-one meeting. We just sat and caught up and BS'd, and it's all good. So, like, no, I truly don't have complaints. And I work normal hours.
It's the weirdest thing. Like, we have we got full-time employees like first time last year, and it is the weirdest thing to be a boss. It's never something I've wanted to do, kind of a thing. But now I have to. So I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
You've got to have like a small army of people at this point.
I was going to say, if you only hired your first employees a year or so ago, you've expanded real fast. Yeah.
Well, we've got the whole company didn't exist. It was in a garage 3 years ago.
Right.
And now we got, we're direct with the aluminum extruders. We have our whole process in house. We like everything is at 9 Lives. It is, we have to control the quality of it because of what we do. It's not like one of these things where I can send out, like I get really pissed at our powder coaters. I'm like, look guys, I have to be able to give people an ETA on when their stuff's done. I can't just say, it's done when it's done. Like I can't do that. I have to, so I basically offered to throw in and partner with them and maybe give myself a little free, a line in, with their process, and they didn't want to do it. So I'm like, screw it. So I went out and bought a big powder coating oven and all the equipment to do it ourselves. So I was like, all right, like we got to control our quality. It's the only way we're going to be successful in this business.
Yeah. If you want to do it right, do it yourself.
Basically.
Powder coating is kind of fun though.
I do like powder coating.
It's fun. There's a lot of stuff that we do that's really fun for like the first 200.
That's fair. That's kind of manufacturing in a nutshell.
Exactly. Almost like sanding the wings. Like the first couple wings I sanded, I'm like, oh man, like I'm really into it. I'm like really getting that polish going. But after I got 200, I'm like, I need to hire a guy to do this. I'm losing my mind.
How much sanding do those require? Because I mean, they show up all nice, shiny, and smooth, and I just assume that they get extruded somewhat close to that. But apparently, that's not the case.
It's fair. I mean, we only do one grit.
Oh, okay.
We don't do like a grit change or anything like that. But yeah, it's like a 400 grit that we just bring it down. We had one. Every time somebody complains, I listen really hard because it's really hard for people like us, and so nobody wants to say anything bad. So they're afraid they're going to get yelled at on the internet or something. So whenever someone complains, I'm just like, tell me more. Like what else is there? And one guy complained about the quality of the wing was a little lumpy, and I'm like, all right, well, we have to get that taken care of.
Yeah.
So we sand each one that goes out, trying to give it a nice finish, makes it look a lot nicer, longer than anything else.
Yeah, no, that is something I've never commented on or like said anything, but yeah, it's very smooth and nice and uniform. So, clearly you've taken the time to make it that way. I just assume like this is a nice product. This is good,
right? Yeah, no, and I'm always like fussing over the welds too, because that's still something I've done every single one. Is I've welded every single one that's left the building, and so I'm always like the welds have to be perfect. Like I cannot. I cannot have one that's like fudged a little bit. They have to be perfect. You
never know when a wing is going to get sent to a guy that validates welds for a living.
Right. Well, and it's also the thing that's like, yeah, that's always the thing too, because like welders always see welders work. Kind of thing. Yeah. And I feel like I hope everyone else. Yeah, well, I just hope in general, like I hope other people see it too, because they put a lot of effort into.
No, it absolutely shows. Definitely. I mean,
I hope so.
No, I don't think I've ever heard anybody complain about anything like that.
Yeah.
No, God no.
Well, it's not complaining. Like the guys at V8 Roadsters. Like if you ever get something from V8 Roadsters, the welds that come out of that place are, you just look at it like, oh, they must have a robot. And it's not. It's the dude. It's Chandel. It's like he just welds that good. And so when I open my business, I'm like, I want to be that good. I want to be as good as he is. Where everyone's just like, holy cow, like that's amazing.
So you weld every one?
You
personally?
One. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is. Welders are really expensive and a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that's just wild to me.
I've welded every wing and I've welded every pylon.
Huh.
Yeah, the guys sit there and they get them all ready. Like today, I had 50 wings to weld. They get them all ready. They leave in a big pile next to my welding table. I come in like first thing in the morning with my coffee, and I'm like, "Don't talk to me." And I put my helmet on, and I just go until I can't see straight anymore. I get all blurry.
Yeah. How long does it take to do a wing for you? Like you got to be pretty quick at it these days.
Yeah, I'm gotten pretty quick. A couple minutes, to get through it. The guys do all the prep work, so that saves a lot of effort for me.
Right.
But yeah, other than that, it's a couple minutes. I mean, when you got 50, I probably did 30 today in 6 hours, of welding. So we got through a good bunch.
So I bet the welding's not the longest part. It's getting them set in the right spot. And like, do you have jigs or anything like that, or is it all?
Yeah, we got jigs and all that stuff. Sets up right away. Tack it, weld it.
Yep.
Move on to the next.
You're not just in there with a tape measure and a paint marker, just winging it. Just
a little bit sometimes. There's
times close enough.
There's a lot of times we'll get like custom work, like diffusers and stuff like that I'll agree to do, and I'm like, man, I gotta go back. Like, I can't do this skip. Like a jig is all pre-set up, everything's pre-measured. Like, I got to go back to my roots again and like build this thing from scratch and like really go into it, kind of a thing. I think the last diffuser I did had 50 feet of welds on it.
Jeez.
And no jigs. Yeah, it was huge.
That's insane.
It was like the one for my car. It's just a monster diffuser.
Right.
And yeah, just welds all the way up and down it, just making it look as good as I can.
Wow.
That's crazy. 50 feet. That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
I just assumed that you had like 3 or 4 or 5 welders full time just in there making wings. But
yeah, no, just me. And I did have a dream the other day that I got done with a meeting. Like I was like, it was a dream and it was very vivid, but I just got done with like a board meeting and I was just so over it. And I just grabbed my bag, my welding helmet, and I just went down to the welding room, and I get in, and I open the door, and everyone's like, hey, and I just sit down and just start welding again, just to clear your mind, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, Robbie, what else you got?
You ready to hit that CFD?
Kind of, yeah.
Stuff in the way?
Well, I was listening to, I think it was Do It for a Living, that show you're on. You were talking about how you guys offer like CFD analysis and like not just like at a pro level, like at a club racer level.
Yep.
And like, I don't know why it never occurred to me that you just had like, that's a consulting option you guys do. And I had no idea about it. So just talk about that a little bit, please.
So what that is, we get a hold of the car or a car like it, and we go through and we 3D scan it. We then go through the process of turning it from you as an engineer, you understand what a mesh is, but it's basically a rough STL, and it's in the computer world, it's almost pointless. And so we go through and we remodel your entire car. So we resurface the STL into a actual CAD file. We then go through the bottom of the car, we model the bottom of it, and we then stick it into our CFD computers and constant run CFD on it. And it's all based upon your goals. Like for some teams, we'll do what we call an aero manual, where we'll do all the changes you can possibly do, ride heights, wing angles, all that stuff. And then we give you an Excel spreadsheet that says, okay, if you're going to add a degree of wing, this is where it's going to change your center balance. This is what's going to do to your downforce. This is what it's going to do to your drag. And you can do that for all your settings. So it's a pretty involved process, but it's, if you're at the racetrack and you're trying to figure out an oversteering issue or understeering issue, or you want to gain 2 miles an hour without losing too much downforce, it's pretty much the only way you can do it.
Gosh, I'm just looking at thinking like I can make an Excel calculator so that all I have to do is plug it in and then it just spits out the answer. Oh man.
Yeah.
The nerd is
so excited.
The nerd in me is like so strong right now.
Oh yeah. It gets intense, as far as like the changes you can do. And it's really nice when we get a car that's homologated.
Right.
Because then it's like, oh, you mean we don't have to build like 3 different splitters for it? We don't have to do 4 different wing pylons. Like, okay, let's do it. Like, let's rock and roll.
So you've got a 350Z scan, right?
Yeah, we do now.
Is that something you would sell? Like if Robbie wanted to buy the CFD scan so that he can play with his own car, is that something you would sell, or is that not a thing you?
It probably wouldn't be relevant just because it's a different setup.
Well, it's would we sell it? Maybe. It depends, that kind of a thing. What we're going to do with it is actually just build an aero kit. What you would do with it normally is what we'll build. and we're not going to charge any extra for it. You know, the aero kit's not going to be $400 more because we've done this work. It's going to be the same price we've always charged. But all it is just proof that the parts work, and it'll help you do your setup when you're going to the racetrack. You know, we'll be able to say, okay, yeah, you got our splitter with the ramps, put 3 degrees of wing in it. Now you got a balanced aero platform. You know, the same stuff that James Hooten posts pictures of his work always getting done. We've already done it for you.
Robbie needs that.
I do.
I can see him just thinking about it. Like,
yeah.
Damn it. How am I going to find the money for this? I don't have the budget for this year.
It's really like, if I wanted to send you my car or, you know, and get that type of analysis, it's really not that expensive, right? I mean,
it's for the amount of work that you do. It's not. It's, you know. I
mean, it's obviously not free, but it's for what you get.
You know, think about how much would it cost you to add 100 horsepower?
On a VQ?
Yeah.
Too much. Let's not.
Right. Right.
We're talking like just adding it or adding it
reliably,
and then keeping it.
Yeah.
Like,
how long do I need it?
How many engines are we going through here?
How is my oil pressure before?
Just 100 shot of nitrous is what, $500?
I mean, you can find that shit at a swap meet all day.
Right. Yeah. Put your 4-barrel adapter plate on there.
Every engine will do 10,000 RPM once.
Right. It'll get there. But if you do but now if we say, how much would it cost to reduce 100 horsepower worth of drag out of the car?
Goes up quite a bit.
Now all of a sudden we're half the price of that turbo kit. We're half the price of doing major engine work.
Right.
And it's something that'll always be there. You'll never blow up that amount of drag you've removed.
Yeah. That's always going to help you.
Right. So you'll always gain more performance out of working with aerodynamics than you will anywhere else, whether it be brakes or horsepower or what have you. So right now it's the cheapest way to go forward.
But the way when you were talking about it and describing it, it was kind of like that same like epiphany moment where it was like, we were talking to Ross Bentley or Racers 360 or like the guys at ApexPro. They're like, they're not willing to spend money on coaching themselves. They're like paying to make themselves better drivers. They'll spend $1,000 on the car.
Yeah,
but they won't spend the same amount of money on themselves. And it's kind of the same thing with the aero. It's like people will throw on a $2,000 wing, but not look into the science behind it and just like, it's a good wing, it'll work.
Yeah.
And then they don't look into
that was like what we found on the Corvettes, right?
Yep.
The Corvette we found will not make front downforce. It hates it. You know, we put a huge splitter on it, 5 inches, and we could overpower the splitter with the aluminum wing. And then there's guys out there, and that's a 9.5 inch cord wing. And there's guys out there with like 17-inch cord wings on these Corvettes. I'm like, what are you doing? Like stop it. You're just blowing through front tires, you're not going any faster.
Yep.
And so I'm like, it's just the hard thing to beat in everybody's head. And it's what always pisses engineers off that I'm good at repeating myself many times, but is balance. You have to have balance. If you don't, when we balanced my little Miata, like I could drive around everybody at Road Atlanta. Like there was this last event, we balanced the car out in the aero platform. There was a stock Audi A6 running in our group, and everybody I talked to said the same thing. Like, man, I kept getting stuck behind this stupid Audi, and I'm like, that's funny. I never did. I just drove around the outside of them. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, just there's plenty of track out here. I mean, it's not taking up the whole track. And they were always shocked at that. So I'm like, no, you got to get your balance right. If you get your balance right, you'll be amazed with how much performance you'll get out of the car.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Especially like right now, we sell the Miata downforce kits, and everybody that puts it on just gets back to us and they're like, wow. Just like they don't even know how to explain it. They don't, but they're just shocked with how well it works. So I'm like, all right, like we're onto something here.
Oh, definitely.
It works. Mm-hmm.
So what's the short-term and long-term goals of Nine Lives? I feel like it's probably a fluid, like moving target based on their trajectory in the last even just 2 years. But I guess what's next? Because like you guys have kind of jumped into, you were doing some diffusers, some splitters. I guess, do you have like a where you're going with this in the, let's just say the next couple of years?
Well, the Aero platform, the packages really were an eye opener as far as what people wanted. Nobody will tell you what they want. There's kind of when you release it, and if it sells well, that's when them telling you. But when we found the Aero packages were a real eye opener of us doing all this hard work for them. So we're going to continue pushing those forward. As many platforms as we can have. It's kind of the thing we do. We just kind of put our nose to the grindstone and work our asses off. And the short-term goal is definitely killing this lead time we have right now. I hate it.
That's like the one thing that I know frustrates people. The one thing that I've heard is a complaint about trying to get stuff from you guys. And I guess that's a good problem to have,
It's not. It's terrible. I hate it.
Well, yeah, but it's showing that, you have a very popular product, and I think people understand that's why the lead times exist, but
right.
It's got to be frustrating. And
I really overestimate it too. Like, I'd rather someone get their wing kit. I'd rather tell them 6 weeks and then get it to them in 3 than the other way around. I just feel like that gives you a really bad name really fast. So if someone calls, I always overestimate it, but I want to get it back down to 2. With all our processes getting brought in the house, I'm 100% confident we can do it. So now it's, that's the short term. And of course, long term, I want to win Le Mans. I want to be hooked up on a team that needs our consultations that, and I want to cross the checker flag first. It's been the one thing that's always escaped me my entire career. Like I worked on the Delta Wing program. When my first day at PFC, I sit down, I'm like, wow, look at this place, big, pro level racing organization, them building parts. And the boss comes by, slaps down a folder on my desk and goes, don't tell anybody. And I open it. And it's this lawn dart looking race car. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing?
That legit is one of my favorite race cars of all time.
Oh, I got my heart broken on it.
This million
Daytona.
Times.
No, this Daytona. Cause I'm like, man, I want to build one, like I know what goes into it. Hell, Rob, my engineer was the engineer on the Delta Wing. So I'm like, man, I'm sure he's got some CAD files, we could build one. Yeah, let's build a car. And I worked with Gabby Chavez, who drove it for many years, but I worked with him at Daytona this year. And I was like racer to racer, what was that thing like? And he kind of looks around. He goes, "Oh, it was great." I'm like, "No, man, come on, don't give me the real professional answer. Real answer. What was it like to drive?" And he goes, "It was terrible." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "On the straightaways, it was really twitchy.
I can see that.
Like he wanted to rotate on you all the time on the straightaways." And he goes, "And then when you get to a turn, it would understeer." So he's like, it was the exact opposite what you wanted all the time. And so I'm like, all right, maybe we don't want to build one.
I always wondered about that with the wheels being so close in the front like that, how that would perform.
Yeah. Well, you can watch it. We would sit at turn 1 at Road Atlanta and watch it go, and going up the hill, the front end would just wiggle, wiggle back and forth as they were you see them trying to get the understeer back under control. And it was an interesting car. It was fast as hell.
Yep.
If it didn't get BOP to death, it would have won every race, which is cool, but it did, and it didn't.
Seemed to always get hit.
Yeah, it got ran over.
Yeah, it always crashed. No one knew where it was at any time. It was so tiny.
It had to be hard as a driver, because just because you made it through at the front does not mean you're going to make it through at the back and stuff like that. That's got to be really hard to get acclimated to.
Yeah, it's like riding a bicycle with a ladder on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. that was my first year, and I was like, man, all that Delta Wing has to do is finish Le Mans, and we get a Le Mans win. And
yeah, I suppose, because
it was his own class. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it was technicality, but it's a Le Mans win.
Hey, a win's a win, man.
Yeah, and I was watching it go. I'm like, all you gotta do is keep it alive. Go for it. And when that Toyota just like punted it off the track, I was so crushed, but at the same time it lit a fire, and I'm like, we got to win this race. I have to win this race. Have
you been there?
I haven't. I've been so close to it. Hell, one of my best friends designed the brakes for that Nissan GTR, the other Bulby car.
Yep. And the other car that I wish would have made some more runs. I think it had a chance.
That thing was a nightmare of a
yeah,
program.
Sure, but
I guess from the insiders were telling me that the guy that was running the program was just an ass, like an unruly jerk to everyone. So I was like, all right, well, whatever on that car. They ordered. So this is a fun story. They ordered 3 different brake kits. They ordered, and when you order a brake kit for a car like that, it's not like you call up and go, hey, give me these part numbers. You go, hey, here's the car. Build us, like, engineer a caliper around the car. Engineer us a rotor, engineer us a pad. And they ordered 3 of them. They ordered one from PFC, one from AP, and then I think one from Brembo. And nobody else knew about it. The 3 manufacturers didn't know. And my friend, my good friend Mark, designed it and flew to Le Mans to hand it to them. And they took it, and then they threw it away. Yeah, and then they end up using the APs, which caught on fire. But it was like how much work went into that? He was like, oh, so much weeks worth of work is good thrown in the trash in the can in Le Mans.
Oh man, it'd be so frustrating.
Yeah, so it was an interesting program. It was interestingly ran, and I wasn't very shocked when they shut it down the way they did.
Huh.
Yeah.
But mismanagement.
Yeah, it was weird. That's for sure.
I think the idea was sound, though, wasn't it?
It was interesting. I'll say that way. Bulby definitely went for the low drag, like he did on the Delta Wing. If it was up to him, he would just built another Delta Wing, but Panos had the rights to it.
Right.
And so he was trying to come up with this way to kill the drag in it, make more speed with less power, because then it needs less gas and you get a couple extra laps out of it, which is a huge advantage in endurance racing.
Mm-hmm.
The motor was sound. They couldn't get the electrical drive, the hybrid system to work. It was slower than a P3 car because they didn't have the electrical system. They didn't have their hybrid system in it. And at that time, that was like the only way to get crazy amounts of power. So it was a nightmare. It crashed and burned like pretty hard. And you feel for the team and the people that were working on it. But yeah, it was definitely interesting. I love to see people go nuts and try different avenues because I feel like that's definitely missing. But
absolutely,
but that's cool to see. But it was pretty sad to see the execution go so bad.
Yeah. So you going Lemons racing this weekend?
Not this weekend, but soon. We're going down to Sebring.
Okay.
I haven't raced at Sebring. I've done time trials down there, but I haven't done racing. So it'll be fun to get down there. We got a car that really shouldn't go, but we're going to take it anyway.
In what way? Why shouldn't it go?
So I built this car, and we built the cage in a rush, right? Like it's sound.
You the safety guy rushed a cage.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that it's like dangerous. Like it's more that it's ugly.
Oh, okay.
It was one of those things like I bent the A-pillar bar and I was low on material, so I couldn't rebend it. And so when it came out, I was like, ugh. like this is, and we had like an event like the next day, and it was just supposed to be a track day car, like just something to go and learn momentum stuff, get all the bad habits out.
Yep.
And so when we built the A-pillar, it came out looking like a Hummer. Like the front bars are so vertical. And it's all square. Like I didn't want a tire coming into to hit you, so I put another bar over the top. And I'm like standing back. I'm like, this looks like a Hummer. It's not like
what
it
is
looks for
it?
a Miata.
That's a Miata. Okay,
yeah, it's a little 1.8 pop-up headlight, and we called it doorknob because the idea was that we're just going to show up, or it's like the default car. So if you're running a track day at Road Atlanta and you blow up your car or you lose a tire, something bad happens, you just like, oh, just take doorknob, for everyone gets a turn. And so they take it because I built a ghetto set, like an exo set, like a death cart.
Yep.
Right.
And I built that. I way overbuilt that cage. But it was the funnest thing with clothes on because you get 2 or 3 guys that their cars broke and you leave the lap timer in there. And all you do is just battle back and forth with them trying to beat their time. And, it was the thing just gets hot lapped like crazy, but it was so underpowered. It took all the takeoffs from the V8 car, so it had way more tire than it ever needed. So you just stay flat on it and just drive. It was a riot. So I wanted to build another one of those. And we ended up with doorknob instead.
Well, good luck on that, at least, I guess.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah, Tom McGrath.
Lemons is always fun, I think.
Yeah. I think if you show up to win at Lemons, you've already lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you should just show up with the most cheated car you possibly can and see how much beers you can have. Like that's the point.
Robbie's going to go to WRL and take all the fun out of it.
It's kind of the opposite of the end of the spectrum.
Yeah, right. Yeah, then you got to actually build it right, like, and be clever about it.
But we do have a 9 Lives wing on that too.
Nice.
That just showed up last week.
I appreciate
that. You just welded that the other day.
Yeah. Dude, every wing that's like shown up in the last 2 days, I've welded in the last 2 days.
We've had it a week or how long has it been sitting? We need to get the car running, so we haven't really focused on installing that yet. But it's here. We planned ahead.
Running again.
Yeah,
as much as I say you don't need a lot of horsepower, you do need some.
It's got to run. That's key. For an endurance race car, it needs to start and stay running. So
yeah,
we were there, and now we're not there. So we got some stuff to sort out yet.
Gas should flow in and then out.
It does that. Still doesn't fire. So we spent.
What is it?
It's 944.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is it that white one?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Go. Yeah. Dude,
yeah.
I feel so bad for 944 drivers. Do you have the stock motor in it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Every time I say something, I feel like I insult you more.
Yeah, keep talking. It'll hurt me some more.
The dagger keeps stabbing. I don't know what's going on.
It ran fine, brought to the dyno. Now it no longer runs at all. I'm not joking.
I'm what was it?
Fair, Robbie joined the team. He didn't start it, so
we spent no less than eight hours on Saturday diagnosing it, and still are not we don't have a fucking clue. It makes no sense why it won't start.
I always feel so bad for the guys that show up and run Spec 944.
Yeah,
because it's like all they do is just show up to work on their cars. Like the E30 guys are hilarious.
Fast, but it's not. You're not even fast.
No, yeah, they're like slower than me.
It's slow.
Yeah.
Like the E30 guys, so the crew that we run with, the E30 guys are hilarious. They'll show up with a spare car because there's so many of them, and then like they just drop it, and then everyone vultures on it and just steals all the vintage parts off it until it's a shell, and then the dude who's crashed that event will take the shell. I'm looking at this like this is organized chaos to a T. This is really impressive, guys.
Yep. So hopefully we have a 944 with your weighing on it here real soon.
Just put a LS swap them. LS one's real good in those things.
I have an LS in the 240 that's not being used currently, so just throw that in there.
I think you need to sell that to ZR3 Racing because they clearly need to stop putting inline sixes back in their Z3, and you need to put a K in the 944. It'll be fine.
That'd be cool.
That'd be good. That'd be real good.
We need to get K power on that.
Yeah,
I don't know what you do with the torque tube transaxle issue though. That'd
be perfect.
I'll say it's fine. It won't. You just because the clutch is all in the front anyway, so you just made it to the flywheel to the clutch, and you're good. I
suppose.
It'll be cake.
Yeah, the LS swaps and those things are stupidly simple.
Yeah, like it's too easy.
Yeah,
it makes too much sense.
It does. It fits really well. Then you have a transaxle. Yeah. You got Porsche axles already. Yeah. You know, I had to pay extra to put Porsche axles in my Miata. So I mean, you already got them. So,
yep.
I mean, hey. I mean,
that's 2022, man.
Yeah,
you put a Holly ECU on it. I've never lost a lap due to an ECU issue.
Yeah, that's
shout out to Holly.
God, that just makes too much sense.
Do it.
All right. Well, when it gets brought up again when we can't get it running, I'll be like, Nine Lives Johnny said that we had to. So this engine's got to go. I'm sorry. He said we had to.
You know, there was a rumor going around that somebody had called there's a company that makes the adapter plates.
Yep.
Out of Vegas, I think they are. I can't remember. It's like Outlaw or something like that.
It's Renegade.
Is that the one?
Renegade, that's it.
Renegade, they make those crazy Caymans.
Yeah, but I guess somebody had called them and asked them for the DXF of the adapter plate, and they said sure and gave it to them.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. Which is weird because I did the same thing with Ecotech Miata. I was just like asking if anybody had the CAD of the Ecotech motor and of the Miata trans, and I was just going to make one for my own car. And they got a hold of me. And they're like, "Hey, don't do that." I'm like, "Why?" And they're like, "Here." And they gave me the file.
Huh.
I'm like, isn't this your whole business?
I have a friend who's got that kit. He hasn't got it in the car yet, but he's got the kit.
Yeah.
Which took a really long time to get. But you think your lead times are bad. Oof. But,
yeah, that's what I heard.
But I don't know, man. It seems to make more sense than a K if you're not going for like crazy power.
Yeah, I mean,
because
putting an aluminum block. I mean, doing either. One, I hate BPs. I do not like. Everyone
should hate BPs.
Everyone reaches out to me for like how to get their car running advice, and I'm like, look, man, I had a Miata with a BP for like 10 minutes, and I took it out and put an LS in it. So I'm not the subject matter expert on this. You'd think I am. Like, so it's I always just pull them out and put something else in. You know, the K Power one is like. Marcus did it on his car, the K Miata swap. Holy cow, is that a pile of parts? I saw that. I saw that pile of parts sitting at Marcus's house. I'm like, this is amazing. How do you like? They delivered this like this? Like it was sitting as high as my desk. You know, these pile of parts that you need. I'm like whatever David's charging for this kit is too cheap because that is a lot of fab work. You know, like the front timing cover was billet.
Jeez.
I'm like, that's a $400 piece of aluminum, before you start machining it. It's insane. Yeah.
That started in Adam Jabay's garage.
Did it?
Yeah, he built the first kit. Adam? He welded it up for David.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh,
they built that in his garage like years ago.
Oh, is that badass?
So
I saw their KE30.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too.
I just think a wagon, the K-powered wagon E30 would just be the coolest thing. Like you could daily drive the snot out of that and just be the coolest dude in the block, you know.
I don't think there's very many in the Rust Belt that we live in. There's not very many E30s that are being driven with any regularity.
Oh man, the racers down here are like pulling them out of junkyards. You know, like they're starting to get expensive. Most of the guys are building spec E46 to get out of it because E30s are just getting so expensive. And, you know, that a $50,000 E46 build looks better. So I'm like, wow.
It makes more sense. At least you have more car when you're done.
Yeah. Well, it was a bigger car.
More modern car.
Yeah, it's got air conditioning, CD player, you know, all the stuff you want.
Can't be mad about air conditioning in a race car.
No. Doorknob still has it. The Corvette will always have it.
When you live in Georgia, it's justifiable for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. That When we build that Corvette,
cores out, you just pull the heater cores right out. Is that the first thing you do? Is just throw those in the trash? You don't need
heater cores? Yeah, you don't need no heater core.
Up here, we feel differently about it.
We're kind of the
opposite.
No,
you guys are like, oh, you got to keep it to blow it on your windshield. I'm like, down here, we're like, nah.
Air conditioning is a luxury, but a heater is a requirement.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's flipped for us. Also, we don't use as much PB Blaster as you guys do.
I do love PB Blaster.
It's required.
That was like a thing I busted out of my toolbox when I moved down to the South. And the guys were like, what's that?
No better smell.
I'm like, hopefully I never have to use this again.
Yeah. Just use it
It'd
too
be
often.
so nice to just like take things off with reasonable amounts of force.
Yeah.
Or just actually take things apart. Yeah.
Yeah, with things just don't snap off in your hand all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not I know that the ghetto set we built came from the north. And I think it came from like Indiana. And I put it up on my lift, and we were like, on the stock Miata suspension, when you get to turn, like the tire will just roll under. So you got to throw a whole bunch of camber in the front.
Yeah.
And I remember pulling that thing up on the lift, going to add more camber into it. And I saw all the bolts, and I was like, nope. And I just put it back down on the ground. I'll just burn through tires. This is fine. It's worth it.
Yeah.
No, I was
so frustrating.
I did brakes for a coworker once, and then like jack the car up, and like you could just watch the bottom pan just go up into like a triangle and just drop a bunch of rust on the ground, and then broke all the brake lines because they just as soon as they moved, they just all cracked and broke, and I'm like,
that was the moment you regretted helping a friend.
Yep.
You're like, oh no.
She was like, yeah, like I'll pay you to do the brakes on my daughter's car. It'll be, afternoon of work. It'll be easy. I'm like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, that sounds great.
She's never asked me to do that again.
we did the brakes on
drinking a beer right now.
Yeah,
we did the brakes on my Blazer, and we were trying to crack open bleeders, and we couldn't get them open. And eventually, I just said to Robbie, I'm like, turn them till they break or they open. If they break, we'll go buy new calipers. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Like, what are you gonna do? We got to bleed it. So,
right. Yeah, that was that reminds me of it wasn't rusty, but my pops bought a C3 Corvette, like with 427 and everything. And him and my mom were going to be like, hey, we're going to go do a tour of the U.S. Like, they bought an RV, they sold their house. Like, we're going to go drive around the U.S. for a year. Can you watch my cars? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Clear the space. And pull it in. And I was like, noticing, I'm like, there's like brake fluid on the outside of the, or the inside of the tire. I'm like, it's probably got a leaky caliper. Look again, there's like 3 of them are leaking. I'm like, okay. Old car, got it. So I get under there. And I go to take the caliper off, and the pads moved like that, but still in. So they bent in. I'm like, man, is that weird? And I felt the pistons in the caliper were spheres. They weren't cylinders.
Okay.
Were they supposed to be?
Like from age or what?
No, like this is the way they were. And if you had too much lateral run out on the hub, the calipers would leak.
What?
If you ever get a chance to work on a C3, never take money to do it. But like, get your head on the.
It's not worth it.
C3s are the most wildly engineered cars you can ever imagine. Like the windshield wipers. To get the windshield wipers to work, everything's vacuum operated. There is a switch that looks like that, like a hook, right? So when you turn on the windshield wipers, the vacuum opens this cover that uncovers the windshield wipers, and then that cover has a little switch that pushes a button. And then when it pushes the button, that allows, like, I kid you not, it's like a finger and pushing a button, and then that allows the vacuum to get to the windshield wipers to actually move back and forth. Like, it is, take a wild look at the C3. They are trips of engineering, like prowess that clearly nobody's ever used since.
Those vacuum operated things don't work consistently.
Yeah, but I love it when the headlights go up slow.
Oh gosh.
Like they go, like one will go up quick, and the other one kind of like takes its time. Like I get a kick out of that.
I have this little S10 that the motor's blown up, but I used to have an S10, I should say, and all the HVAC vents and stuff like that are controlled with the vacuum system, right?
Right.
Well, I turbocharged it because I'm an idiot. And so when it would go into boost, if you had the fan on like at a high speed, it would just blow out of every vent, like just everywhere.
It's never something that they thought about.
Nope, that was never a thing. They're like, oh, we need to make sure this will work under boost. No, you don't. That's not a thing. Who cares, right?
We're never going to boost one of these.
Right. So as soon as you put any boost to the truck, it would just blow air everywhere. Like you idling around town would be fine.
It's like one of those things with like the temperature control unit looks like Medusa's head with all the tubes everywhere.
Yeah, it's terrible. But then it's really low geared because it had like a 411 in the back or something like so. It was really low geared and it was only a 5-speed. So when you're cruising down the interstate doing 75 miles an hour, it's like really turning some RPM.
Yeah.
And if I had a real strong headwind, I would build like 3 or 4 pounds of boost just driving down the road. And so like I could never get my windshield to defrost.
That's hilarious.
I love that truck. I need to get it running again. It's my favorite thing I've ever owned. I love that stupid thing so much, but it was so dumb. There's these little things that like, God damn it. This is my own fault.
That's like my, I got a 99 Ram. Yeah. And like I bought my wife a new Titan and I drive this Ram everywhere. It's, it's Cummins 2500 diesel. And it's the truck I've always wanted in high school. And it was my grandmother's truck, and she gave it to me. And I was like, man, I love this thing to pieces. And I drive it to events. I, do all my consulting work. I take that, so I'll show up. Like I showed up to VIR with it. And Kenton Koch, who is in the Grid Life Circle, but also a pro driver, he comes over to me and goes, you're making decent money. You probably should get a car. And I'm like, I have a Corvette. Like I have a new Corvette. My wife's got a brand new truck. Like, I'm like, it's cool. Like I just really love this old piece of shit truck, And it was that. Yeah. And I was like, all right, I need to like spruce this thing up because it's getting to the age where it's like I could kind of resto mod it and get some props for having a really clean one. I'm like, all right, that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna like clean it up, make it drive real nice. I put all the Banks exhaust and stuff like that on it, just make it cool, and try not to make it look too bro-dozer kind of a thing, and just try to make it nice and clean. So when I show up to tracks, guys don't come up to me and be like, your bill was pretty big. You could probably afford a nicer car.
They just don't get it, man. Some people just don't get the shitbox life. That's
No, it's better. It's better.
It's cheaper.
Well, I know if it breaks, I know exactly what's broken.
That's true.
Like my wife's Titan, when that thing starts giving us warning lights, I'm like, I got no idea.
Take that to the dealership.
Yep.
Like there is something wrong in here, and it's just flashing at me and won't let me go fast.
Yeah.
Like that life sucks.
Yeah.
It's either got to be 20 years old or it's got to be new enough to have a warranty. There's nothing in between.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Car design peaked in 1999.
Hell yeah. This guy gets it.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So, should we shut her down? It's getting a little long.
This is a lot longer. Yeah, we got chatty.
We laughed at 2 hours.
Yeah, we were like, 2, 3, good one. No.
Look at us crushing it.
Yeah, big long show.
And we only talked about our business for like 10 minutes, so we're cool.
Yeah, this is a perfect show, fun. Man.
Yeah, it didn't bother the hell out of everybody.
People find you.
Yes.
9livesracing.com.
Let's do that.
Google's a great place to go. 9livesracing.com. Facebook. My Twitter account is pretty sad, so don't go there. Instagram. You name it. So, but yeah, we're pretty easy to find. Ask your closest friend. Go to the pit paddock. the first shiny aluminum wing you see, knock on it, ask them where they got it.
There's probably 30 of them in any given paddock these days. So,
or if you see somebody taking a picture of somebody standing on top of one, that's certainly a 9 Lives wing.
Yeah.
It's like that's the first thing you do.
It's probably Joe standing on top of his wing again.
I stood on mine for a picture. It's like a rite of passage. Like you get it installed, you stand on top of it, you ask your wife to take a picture of you, then you post it on the gram, you tag 9 Lives, and that's how you know you own one.
Yeah. There's, and I always find it fun when people put their kids on it.
Yep.
So you get the kids are all real excited about standing on the wing. Like that's always those are my favorite. I'm like, that's cool. Like let's get the next generation going too. Like let's rock. Let's get them fired up and understand that this is a fun thing. Yep. Get them involved.
Yeah. That's the picture that they'll show at their graduation.
Yeah. Or hopefully, like they're like, oh yeah, you remember this one?
Yep.
I would totally do that as a senior picture. That'd be a great senior picture.
Yep.
It would really.
I mean, I had mine with the Lambos up on my Cavalier, but you do you.
So what are you, like 35, 36?
33.
33?
34 almost. Yeah.
Yep.
Right in that area.
I remember when Lambo doors were cool.
They're still cool.
So cool, man.
They're coming back. Robbie put a set on his 350Z. I talked to Adam Jabay into buying the ones that are on his EF. They're fucking cool, man. They're great. Lambos are great.
They're so fun.
We got to figure out a way to gull wing that EF.
Oh, that'd be great.
That would be great too.
I'm all about doing that.
Some barn door hinges and some self tappers, and we're done.
Let's do the back
let's not
glass.
make it any harder than it needs to be.
Barn door it.
There you go.
Yeah, with the old creaky hinges where it's just a pulley on the rail. Yeah, let's do that with this back window.
So, well, thanks, man.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun, man.
Thanks for coming on. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. You're welcome back anytime you want. So,
Deal. You call me. I'll pop on anytime.
We're bad at that, if you haven't noticed.
Yeah, but we'll take advantage of that next chance we get.
Yeah, absolutely. Or if you're hosting a GLTC race, just give me a shout. I'll come running up the booth.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah, I love hearing my own voice in the announcers. That's cool when you go like when you get the little echo and everything. You feel like you're announcing a baseball game. It's cool.
So
yeah, I think
Robbie, what do we need? Do we need to talk about sponsors real quick?
Just tell everybody go to mypetrolbox.com. Use the code TenTenths, get 50% off. Or no, TTP.
That's 15. Not TenTenths.
Nope. ApexPro is TenTenths.
There you go.
You go to mypetrolbox.com. Use the code TTP15 for 15% off of your first Petrolbox, or 50% off everything in the store. I'm wearing my Petrolbox shirt now. I feel like I've been saying this for weeks. If you haven't already, you need to go do it now.
Petrolbox.
MyPetrolbox.com.
Every shirt Robbie owns is a Petrolbox shirt.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be.
Exactly.
That's the way all shirts should be.
Yeah. The best shirts are the ones that show up in your mail that you didn't order, or that you didn't see coming. You just show up and like, oh, that's a great shirt.
Yes.
And then I wear it all the time. All right. We can shut this down. This is, a lot longer show than I thought we'd do, so I appreciate that.
Awesome, guys. I appreciate you having me. Thank you very much.
Of course. Have a good night, everybody, and we will talk to you next week.